So let's look at one more example here. This one's outside of these CMake examples, but it's a real-world example, and this one is from a project that we've done in my group called SITLib. So if we grab it, we can go git clone, GitHub BYU ignite /sitlib.git, and if we go into the sitlib there, this has a collection of libraries for aerosol dynamics and soot formation, representing soot chemistry and modeling the particle size distribution. And there's documentation and some examples and source and tests here. And we'll just look at the CMake lists.txt. So we can see here we have the minimum required, and we've given this an extra keyword version, and then some project setup. We're telling it to be release. If it's not set, make it release. We're using the C++ standard of 17, requiring it, setting this no extensions so that it catches like CXX instead of like G++, those kinds of differences. You can look those up. And then some details about the installation. In this case, we're going to install it locally. We have some build options you can set with the option command. In this case, build examples. Leave the examples on, but the testing and the docs off. And then our main project is this source. And then if we've set these variables above the options, then we can add these other targets for building documentation and testing and such. So let's go in and look at that. Add subdirectory source. And you can see in this case there's quite a lot of header files, and there's even more if you look in the subdirectories, both sources and headers. In this project we chose to include the sources alongside, or the headers alongside the sources. Sometimes you'll see those separated out. But let's look at the CMake lists. And in this case it follows pretty closely with example 3 in the CMake examples projects, but the difference is there's a lot more files. So here we're creating a shared library called sitlib, and we're giving an alias for that. You can look up how and why that is used, and then we add these target sources, sitlib, and we give it, these are all the sources that are specific to this particular target, and only are needed by this target. And then the public consists mostly of these header files that are needed both for building this project and then anybody that's going to use it downstream. That's why it's set to public. So we have this file set, we call it sitlib headers, type is headers, base dir is where to look for it, which is the current source dir. And then we list all of these headers and the path from this base dir to any of these, all of these other header files. And there's quite a few of them, as you can see, reasonable number anyway. And then we're also adding these subdirectories for the sources in the 4 different types of models there. If we're on a Mac, we have this if Apple. We need LAPACK for this particular library. So if we're on Apple, we want to find the accelerate library. Otherwise, we can find LAPACK. And then we're going to link against those libraries. So link the accelerate into sitlib on a Mac, or LAPACK into sitlib on Linux machine. And then this later section here is just like the previous examples we did in the CMake examples, where we're going to use GNU install dirs. We're going to have sitlib as the targets. We have an export. We have we're installing the file set, which is all of these soot headers. Those are all going to be installed in these same sort of paths. So it's going to retain this file structure, which is good. And then we're going to do the install for the exported config file. We're calling that sutlib.exp CMake. Give it a namespace, tell it where to go, and then we're also going to install that. So this creates the file, and this installs the file. So we have that. Install config. Actually, let's just compare that to the CMake examples. Example, I guess 4 maybe. Source CMake. Yep, just like before. Great. Okay, so then have a look at that again. And let's go ahead and install that. Before we do that, let's look at the examples folder, because that's going to make 2 different examples. One is here in this top directory called simpleexample.cc, which just sets up the interface and exercises it. And the other is this burner flame. So if we look in the top directory, we're linking against a shared library in this case. So we have this CMake install R path. We're not linking against anything external, so we don't need this command. That's just here for reference. And then we add the simple executable. We include the directories that it needs. In this case, the directory location, the locations, the directories where the include files live, which is in project source/source. So the top level project/source, top level project/source, that's where all the headers are. Then we tell it to link our simple example against sutlib, and then we tell it to install this simple example in this local directory. So it'll be installed alongside the source files in this case. And then we do the same thing with the burner flame. So in this case, we're actually referring to the burner flame rather than put a CMake lists file in the burner flame folder. We're just going to leave it all in this top level and refer to the files that are inside of burner flame. So that's a little bit different, just for variety. Add executable, burner flame, that's the name of it, and then where it's at is prefaced by its location. Then we have it's dependent on the headers in the soot library. We can link it against sutlib just like we did for the simple example up here, and then install it. And in this case, the install will be in the burner flame library. So let's go ahead and run this thing. mkdir build, cd build, cmake ... make slow, make -j, make it in parallel. Good, make install. Okay, and then it installed it. In this folder, we now have lib and include right here, include and lib. So let's have a look in there. Include keeps all the full directory structure, coagulation models. Okay, and if we go and look at lib, we can see the shared library that we built, and this CMake sutlib, and it includes the config file, and the config file doesn't have much in it other than basically just including sutlib.exp.cmake, which is the CMake generated file. And that's what was used for that will allow us to use go into the examples. In this case, when we do the examples, we didn't need a find package because the package is part of the same project that we're working on. The sutlib is part of the same project. But if we have some other code that wants to use this library, then we've made it simple for downstream users to use CMake because all they'll need is find package sutlib, and then they won't need to worry about there's commands like target include directories or target link directories. It'll find it much more simply. So if we go into the examples folder here, we can see it created this executable, simple example. We can run it and it works. We can go into the burner flame folder and it created an executable burner flame, and we can run it and it works. Okay, so that's a more complete example of using some of the techniques that we saw in the CMake examples projects.